I mentioned this earlier. ServiceNow is a company I'm pretty excited about. I've been excited about ServiceNow since I was first exposed to ServiceNow about 5 or 6 years ago. There are pieces in the infrastructure of making processes and transformations work, and part of that is tracking where things are, and you can think of that as case management and flow, but I think actually Manjeet's going to give us a better description than I would give. So this is an exciting look at part of why process mining is important and how it can be used. So let me do first, before we let Manjeet take off here. Manjeet Singh is a results-driven product leader with 20 years of experience in product management, software engineering, data science, analytics, growth, and strategy. I don't know about you guys, but does that sound like a member of our tribe? I think he is. I think he is one of the BTOS tribe. He has a solid track record of delivering high-impact, large-scale enterprise projects. And of course, he has lots of fancy education from Santa Clara University, which if you haven't been to Santa Clara University, that is a hotbed of very intelligent people. Manjeet, am I singing enough praises for how smart and accomplished you are? I'm going to leave the stage and let Manjeet take us on a journey and focus on how ServiceNow is affecting businesses at all strategic levels. Manjeet, the stage is yours.
Chris, thank you very much. I love the word tribe here, and I'm a big fan of this tribe around process improvement, service improvement. You know, this able to do this continuously and drive the business results. I'm really excited to join here and share some of the things that we are seeing across our customers. Because as Chris was mentioning, if you don't know about ServiceNow, we are a platform company. We build enterprise scale workflow for large enterprises. And when I say large, it means, you know, the companies, all the multinational companies, and then companies that run multiple kind of big departments. And the key requirements there is how you can make the workflow across your IT department, across your HR, across your customer service, and others. And I would say that that's what we do. So I'll use this term enterprise service management quite a few times in my talk track, because that is what drives the workflow across this different business unit I mentioned. For example, ITSM, if you work in IT department, or CSM, customer service management, if you're serving out the external customer. So what I thought would be helpful kind of to share is in ServiceNow, we are on to this journey of applying process mining across our entire spectrum. So we'll start looking at, okay, what it means to apply process mining techniques and the best practices on the enterprise service management. The next, I'll switch on to the vision that we have, how we can keep this process mining level of visibility always on. And I think the best way to do it is to have it as inbuilt as part of, as close to your processes and workflow. And I think the most important thing that I want to make sure, you know, the share in here is that there's so many different personas involved in when we talk about any analytics product. For example, your BI tools, and here we will focus on process mining. This is not just for your analyst team, your process analyst or business analyst. I think my thesis is how you can serve from analysts to your business users, help them make more data and fact-based decisions, and as well as to your executive team, to all the way up to CEO. And as the theme of this the topic, the title of my talk track is, I'll make sure, you know, I leave you with some really practical lesson learned and the trends that we are seeing across our customer base. So I really hope you'll get some, you know, couple of key takeaways that you can go back and think, hey, does this apply to my organizations, or have you been thinking about in that directions? So I'll find that helpful. Okay, so let's dive in. This is a little crowded slide, but an important one because, as I mentioned, we serve many different organizations within an enterprise. We have IT workflow, we have employee workflow, we have customer workflow. And what's important is when you see these boxes in here, these are the individual processes that power up these workflow. For example, if you look into IT, your incident management, problem management, change, request. How do you fulfill requests from all your internal employees? Then you go into asset management, and the scopes keeps on increasing because the IT team is now heavily involved in DevOps practices. So all your SRE teams, and very quickly becomes a multi-departmental workflow where many teams are working in parallel. And then the question becomes how you can get visibility into how those teams are working, where do you have process inefficiencies, where do you have automation opportunities. So all those questions that I see being asked from customers, we will kind of do a deep dive into that. So I think the key theme in here is just in the scope of enterprise service management, there's a lot of opportunity where a technique and a solution like process mining is becoming very important. It's not a nice to have, and really driving the value that you can measure. So towards the end of my talk track, I'll leave you with a framework that we are using when it comes down to justifying the ROI and the value as customer starts to use these capabilities. Okay, so if you look at the kind of when you talk to people who are practitioner in the analytics community, or let's say you're talking to BI teams or people who are like service owners, there are many personas. I'm bouncing here a little here and there, but I'll kind of bring back it together in next two slides. The key theme you will there is when you ask them, hey, what outcomes you want to drive from these improvement projects or these optimization initiative, whether those initiatives are coming from top down or they may be coming from your support team, doesn't matter. So here are some of the points that I'm hearing very consistently is like, hey, can we identify where are the bottlenecks? How can we eliminate those bottlenecks, right? People talk about the KPIs, how you will track them. Or another related one is, how can you identify a lot of duplicate and rework happening? Because the key KPI that most of our customers are using is the mean time to resolve. When you think about a process like incident or a case management, the speed and the faster resolutions and providing the workaround and then really kind of going back and fixing the root cause, those are very important to deliver a great service to employee and your customers. KPIs like SLA, I think that's super important, whether you're serving internal employees or customers. The most important one I see when it comes down to outcome is increasing the automation rate. Because when you have this lot of automation tool set in your within your team, whether you are using RPA or whether you are using business rule based automations or more AI ML, doesn't matter. I think that one KPI everyone starts to care is how to increase the automation rate. How can we continue to identify more and more opportunities in a given process and see, does it make sense to apply automation? Should we even do it? Or and so what it comes down to is, to deliver a great experience and a service, you need more visibility, and then you need more the insights that you can act on. And that's the journey that I would say is important for enterprise service management, and for that matter, any other business processes. If you look into procure to pay or order to cash on those processes, I think the key themes I'm seeing is they are very similar, because You want to see how the work is actually flowing with how people are interacting within your process. You want to see the as-is view, compare it with your expected view. But the value that we are seeing more and more is, hey, it is less about more of the postmortem analysis. How about we make it always on? And what I mean by that is, can we discover the processes as the new data coming in? So let's call it auto discover processes. Can we extract the insights as that's new, let's say, incidents and cases and change requests are coming in? Serve those insights to the right persona so that they can make the decisions on where to automate, where to optimize, whether it's people, processes, tools, kind of that kind of framework. And the last one, but not the least, is everybody wants to be more proactive. We want to get alert where things are not working well, so that we can be a more resilient organization. So you may have seen these 4 steps, but I think the key difference that we are seeing is the need towards less bit of a reactive to more of a proactive approach. And I think the best way to do this is having process mining very close to where your processes and workflows are running. Because if you keep taking the data out and doing the analysis outside, that will be more of an ad hoc analysis. Still useful, but you will get a lot more. So let me touch base on the persona, because this one I've seen there's a lot of confusion around, hey, who should be using this tool? Are this COE team, or is this improvement management team, or there's this responsibility falls within the your BI teams? And I think it doesn't matter where these the people who are responsible for driving these optimizations, whether they live in the support a particular business function, or whether they directly report into IT. I think what's important is to look into that. Who are these key persona? And the way I would like to divide that is into these 4 buckets. Process owners, so people who are responsible for designing the process and making sure the processes stays standardized, and then the processes are running seamless as expected. Then we have process analysts. I think these are very important stakeholder in this entire optimization journey. Process analysts typically work serving the process owners, doing more deeper dive, and then more answering the questions is like, okay, if you're seeing this kind of a KPI going up and down, what is the root cause behind those? Basically, what are the drivers behind those trends? And I think really help make recommendations on where to improve and optimize. The third persona that I'm seeing is when it comes down to team managers or managers manager, like CIO -2, that's where I'm seeing a keen interest in from the visibility standpoint, that, hey, can I get a full view of if we are serving these, ITSM, CSM, and HR, these workflow, can I get a view of how those workflows are working at a high level? We don't expect these people to really kind of go and drill down to 2 level or 3 level, but just having that visibility into what's happening with the key KPIs like customer satisfaction, what's happening with my SLA attainment rate. So one is your KPI indicator, and then side-by-side weave off a Google map of how that process is working. That particular, I would say, the combination is resonating very, very well. in our customer base, we are seeing that, hey, can we have the process view of this particular business process as part of my CEO dashboard? So as we were hearing this, we went on to that journey and starting adding the process mining view as part of the CEO dashboard. So what we are seeing here is just a CEO view where we have these many different workflow. Our IT department, our sales department, our HR department, and then able to show this to everybody. So we have these big monitors. As you enter into ServiceNow offices, and anybody can see how the work is actually flowing within the organization. And what it comes down to is the visibility part, right? And then you can, of course, drill down into other areas depending on what persona to what questions you are trying to answer. So in this picture, you see, this is our executive briefing center where our customers can come and they can see, hey, this is how ServiceNow is running, and we want to set it up as a playbook and as a model, powered by all the KPIs that we want to show, as well as the process mining. So the map you see in here, this is showing how our IT department and teams are working. What is their throughput level? What is their how fast they're resolving those tickets? So there is no the blaming and shaming between department. It's like, hey, this is how we are doing. Give us more suggestions on how we can improve. If you have new ideas, so bring them on board. Another one example I'll give you is managers, specifically the support team managers. Whether you're serving your internal employees or external customer, doesn't matter. I think the key important aspect there is those support team managers have a very tough job. Typically, they manage multiple teams, and then they have very high pressure of delivering excellent customer service, attaining SLA, and the team stays on call. And in this COVID, we have heard many stories of those teams going through the burnout, and then while serving their customer. So now the question is, hey, can we empower these managers with this additional insight into how the work is actually getting into their queue to the support team, and how the work is actually getting out from the support team? Because you have level 1, level 2, level 3, and you want to make sure there's no ping pong happening. So able to surface up process level insight is very, I think, critical to help manager. Is like, hey, is it a coaching opportunity? Is it training opportunity? Do we have skill gaps? Because if this person is getting a lot of tickets through, let's say, a particular channel, email or phone, this person ended up reassigning those tickets to level 2. What is the reason? Is it the skill issue, or is it the motivation issue? So then you go into that journey of really, as a manager, deciding what is the right action to improve the situation. So quickly, if I recap the last 3, I think the thing is this idea of always on process mining, wherever your workflows are running, able to ingest data and then show the right insights to whether you are a manager or whether you are an executive. You want to see, hey, I manage these 3 functions. How can I get visibility across all of them? Okay. So what I'll do next is let me go through some of the lessons learned, because I think we all are on this journey of looking into, first there are 2 approaches I've seen. Okay, there's this solution. Let's find the problem and apply that problem to the solution. Or let's pick up the real use cases and pinpoint, and then trying to see what is the right solution for that given problem statement. I'm a big fan of the second approach, where we look at some of the use cases, and then let's see what is the right solutions we should offer. So what we did is we, as part of our research, and then how looking at the pattern and trend, how our customers are using it. Here, what we, some of the things that we have learned. One is just to level set. When you build this enterprise level workflow between multiple departments, we talk about the processes, and you design your process. Hey, this is how the sequence of step will happen from the time an incident is created to the time the incident is resolved. And then the second layer of that is kind of the operational view. What sort of task will be created if you have these three level of teams, level 1, level 2, level 3, how the work will be routed between those teams, what are the different SLA requirements. So I think and this is where things starts to get complex. And if you are doing external integration with other platform, so ServiceNow connecting with ERP system, or ServiceNow connecting with Salesforce, Workday, that's when what's become important is how you can get the full visibility no matter where the part of the process is executing. So that's the one ask we are seeing is most of the customer have this multi-cloud, multi-platform scenario, and then they don't. I think the real value is that we get the full view of, okay, if you did the request in platform X, but then the actual fulfillment is happening in somewhere else, without combining those two to view in the one process mining model, you will be missing out the entire picture. The second question that we were looking into were what are some of the common techniques, framework when it comes down to how these teams are driving process improvement, process optimization. And this is what we learned. The common technique, Six Sigma, Kaizen, or value stream mapping is becoming quite popular, specifically in a multi-departmental workflow. It's like, where do you have those efficiency leak or those value touch point in the entire workflow? And let's focus on optimizing those. And most of the time, if somebody is not using, let's say, an automated process discovery and mapping, no matter what methodology you use, it takes it's a very heavy manual effort. A lot of teams have to spend time and few weeks to really make sense of how the work is happening in your organization. So that was the second the learning we had. The third is when we started looking at how those improvement decisions are made, who is submitting those ideas. Let's say if you're not really looking at the data, and we saw it's coming from basically both end. It's coming from the top-down directives. Somebody in your management team is like, hey, we want to improve customer satisfaction by 20% or NPS score by X%. That becomes your objective or goal, and then your teams go and figuring it out. Hey, let's find out how can we achieve that? Is it coming from our IT side of house? Is it coming from our other business services? How does depending on the scenario. The other one is the more of a bottom-up approach, where people who are interacting with these processes, most of the time, they know what are the pain point, at least the obvious one. And there's like, hey, my IT department sucks. They always delay my anytime I submit ticket. And as you know, those are the real sentiments that drives how people perceive an IT department or a customer support department. And if you ask those people, hey, can you tell us what we should improve? There's a lot of good ideas come onto in your backlog quickly. And that's what a lot of customers have created, the center of excellence, and they made it easy for all the employees to submit the idea and people can vote upon those ideas, and your COE lead can then stack rank them and let me pick up the top 5 pain point and then set them as those my improvement goal. So yeah, I think this is not I would say big revelation in a sense, but important to understand that to drive these improvement and those initiatives, the more engagement you can drive, both from the top down and bottom up, the more success you're likely to have. So, and then if let's say I would like to summarize some of those learning, okay, how people are driving improvement, how they do kind of decision making, how do they take the intake idea. I think all that is good, but what's I think ultimately it's coming down to is that some personas want bigger picture. When I say persona, I'm referring back to process owner, analyst, managers, and all the way up to CEO. Others wants a more detailed drill down view, and I think it's being able to identify and agree to, okay, what to improve. When we say we want to improve customer satisfaction, there are so many drivers that leads to your CSAT indicator go up and down. And I was like, okay, where to focus? So I think it's like in a big multi-departmental process, when you say where to improve, is not an easy question. And I think that's where the technique like process mining makes it relatively easy. The second is many organizations have this, many different tools, and then how these teams can collaborate between these different departments, how a process analyst is communicating with process owners or other business stakeholders to in alignment with their improvement projects. And the third thing was, I think tool is a tool, end of the day. Of course, a good tool makes a lot of difference, but what it comes down to is that how do you align your stakeholder? And I think, Chris, you were touching base on in your part earlier. It is very important to bring that alignment onto, hey, this is how we are working today, and this is where the gaps are based on where we want to be as an organization. And now let's have a more kind of the open conversations, and then who will do what. Let's identify those goals, and then kind of starting in one department and then kind of expanding into throughout the entire organization. So if you look into, I think these pain points, and then what always comes into play is, hey, can we do more automation? And people read, these articles and blog, in my team and otherwise, and there's like, hey, can we apply AI and machine learning here? Whether it's finding the new automation opportunity or detecting the bottleneck. Root cause analysis is an important one, whether it's a problem management scenario or a process inefficiency scenario. When you look into a particular opportunity or a hypothesis, the question becomes, why? What is driving that? So I think a bunch of kind of the bullet point here, depending on your journey, you want to be more predictive. Can you detect these as the work, the task coming in, alert the right managers, hey, these tickets are on the same path of the, historically looking at the data, and if it continues to happen, these will breach SLA, or these will lead to your bad customer satisfaction score. And I think that kind of the detection and then alerting the right set of users makes a lot of difference. So let me make it a little bit, I think, more tangible, the areas where we have seen success from the use case standpoint. And I'm look highlighting on there are many boxes, but let's focus on the green ones or the dark color one. Root cause analysis is coming up I think is key, because showing that something is bad, I think that's the start of the journey, but helping your users into why it is bad, what are the driver, I think that's where the real value starts to come in. And then able to help, whether this is an optimize the people improvement opportunity or an automation opportunity, or there's so many strategies when you think about what can be done. And so it's important to really guide the user onto, hey, this is what's happening in this process area, and now maybe this is a good opportunity to apply a virtual agent bot, because there's a lot of high volume tickets, relatively less complexity. So I think the key thing is, how can you make that decision making easier by surfacing up the right data point? Another term we are seeing is, I think, popularized by Gartner, hyperautomation. And we think, I think, keeping the name aside, but just the methodology of that, how you can continuously discover automation opportunities across your all workflows, bring them into a central place where people can vet those, prioritize those, and then based on the goals and the business value, you want to bring those opportunities to, depending on the change type, or picking up the right tool set. So I'll show you one end-to-end flow, because that's where we are seeing a lot of customers like, hey, can we do it not just one time, but I finished doing this exercise for change management, can I do it for request management, or can I do it for other processes as they are turning on? So the one I was mentioning about the root cause analysis, and there are a few different techniques. From the success standpoint, when we look at the data and the use cases, there are two techniques that are working well on the data that we have in service management. One is a clustering technique. So you discover a process, and then you show what process parts are bad, and then you can cluster those data set. And then the second technique that we were able to extend it further is by passing on the certain intent onto those clustering, because then the results and the outcome of those ML models are much more useful. And then it helps you identify, hey, if this SLA is trending bad, it is caused by a assignment group, or is it caused by a vendor, or is it caused by a particular hardware type. So that analysis becomes quite easier in a large data volume. And some of our customers, they create 500,000 record every month, and it's a very large volume, and you need that kind of pattern detection. The second thing, I'm coming back to this idea of increasing the automation. So when you're looking at your
Manjeet, your sound is out.
And if this is the opportunity the tool is telling me, let's look into the what is the benefit we are going to get. Is it even good idea to apply our automation in that space? And I think taking the user onto the step-by-step journey and providing them more insights, that's where I think that they feel much more empowered, and they know that whatever things they are prioritizing, they have enough information and context. So what the approach that we have taken is we provided a full closed loop process. So we you process mine, any of the processes that run on ServiceNow, and you see this analysis. As you find those opportunity, you submit them into automation COE or your continual improvement management. Everything happens within the one dashboard, so you don't have to go through hey, should I track this as a project, or should I track this in a PowerPoint or Excel? And the teams are able to collaborate within the same solution. Another one, if you haven't heard about or ran into this one, is the multidimensional mining, because it was easier to discover a process from a single department process, because usually it's powered by one table or two table. Many processes are spanning across multiple departments. For example, one of the processes we have is HR onboarding. When you onboard an employee, to make a successful onboarding, you have to, the IT teams involved, your HR teams involved, your facility team involved, where that employee is going to sit, and many others. So now, if you really want to make your onboarding experience great, then you have to see how those teams are coming together to make sure when the employee comes to the office or joins the first day, that experience is seamless and that employee is productive from the day one, or at least have everything whatever is needed. So what it means is, how do you mine such a process? Because those teams are working on their own areas. IT team is working on IT tasks, HR is working on HR, and that's where this multidimensional thing is becoming an important requirement that we are seeing, because then you stitch all those the sub processes or interconnected processes into one large model, provide ability to drill down and expand into different areas to make it really easy. Okay, so I'll touch base on two more pieces, and then I'll leave some time for if there are any questions out there. Automation discovery, super important, and that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage machine learning based technique to identify the areas where automation should be applied. One technique we found helpful when customers were asking is like, hey, we are generating 1 million incident and cases on ServiceNow platform. That's a lot of volume. We cannot continue to hire more and more support people. How can we identify the incidents that we can deflect, or we can self-serve, or we can, even if those incidents are submitted, can we auto-resolve those incidents? So one technique we used is the automation discovery, where we take the intents behind those incident data, look into what the users are kind of actually asking. We group them into, these are password related issues, these are people are asking for in a MacBook, or and you start from that cluster of data and then seeing, can these type of issues be handled by a virtual agent or a bot or an RPA? And that technique we have found really useful to customers, because then it's like this 80-20 analysis rule. Let me look into where the 80% of the volume is coming from, and then what percentage of that volume, which is happening manually today, you can automate using this different tool set. All right, so I think the last piece in here is touching base on the predictive process monitoring. If you're working in this space, so what happens is you look into the life cycle of your process. This is where it started, this is where it completed. And then as you do it one time for that process, for example, you look at all the closed cases in last 1 year. Then you can learn from that data. Is like, hey, all the cases that breach SLA or that had bad customer satisfaction score, what journey those cases went through. Next time when the new cases comes in, you can detect those patterns and start alerting users that, hey, this is on the same path. It has already been reassigned 3 times, and this is likely to result in a bad SLA. And I think that's when you start to see more and more value of these always on process mining that runs with your workflow, because as the new cases are coming in, it's telling you what is the likely outcome is going to be. And so I'll leave you with this, when I think about what are the different ways to do the optimizations on a process, I focused on a lot on automation and then, improving the process itself. But there are a few other areas that sometimes we ignore. It's like asking that question, is this process step even necessary? Because sometimes we don't ask that question, and then we focus too much on automating a process which has very high variability. So what I recommend is focus on bringing standardization first, because once you have more standardized process, and then you think about where to apply automation, then what will happen is you will have more standardized path, and as your automation starts to kick in, it will be able to do a much better job versus if your process has very high variability. And always, I think, look for the people angle. These days, it's very important to think about how do you reskill and level up your team. At least, if you're leading service management, your support team, IT support team, or customer support team. So having a keen focus on identifying the areas where people should be coached and trained, and I think that's where the one example I shared is, as a manager, how you can see the process behind, not the entire process, but just for how your team is working, how the work is getting into their queue, how it's getting out, who is more overloaded, and that makes decision making much easier. All right, so I think we are out of pretty much time here, so I'll wrap up. This was my last slide. The value, there are 3 drivers that you should think about is the time saving I mentioned, and then the actual saving achieved from your optimization goal. So let me stop here. Chris, apologize. I think I'm running a little out of time. So
that's okay, Manjeet. You covered a great deal of content. I do have one. We only have a second here, but I got one question for you. And I think,
okay.
Earlier I mentioned you can stop sharing your screen, and then you and I will fill up the screen. I mentioned, right. We're all in this tribe, right? We're in this process improvement, operational excellence tribe. And what I have found over the years is there are some leadership teams who get that, and some leadership teams who don't get that. So leadership teams who are driven by salespeople tend to not necessarily see the process as optimally. How are you seeing the impact and the spread of the idea of process mining going from the level of the person doing it and reaching up to the executive suite? How are you seeing that transition happening? Are people getting it? Are the leaders understanding the power of this? And what would you say to encourage more of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first is it's a challenge. Leaders don't understand this, hey, what is process mining? And because so far they were kind of pretty much what they were consuming is some sort of a dashboard and KPIs. And then so this concept of, hey, you're looking at these operational KPIs versus you're looking at a more process view. So the approach that is working well in most cases is if you can really extract your process, have that a simplified process view live from the process that your, whichever leaders, your CEO or anybody you're talking to, start from that view and show that, hey, this is the real kind of the difference. Because and I use the Google Map analogy quite a lot. It's like, hey, Google Map tells you how to go from point A to B, and then what are the different routes, which route is more efficient, has more traffic. It is the same thing for the processes that that are running in our organizations. And now let's highlight on the areas of inefficiency, because that helps the leader to ask the question is like, hey, why these process paths are slow? What can we do about it? Is it a people process tool? So anything then kind of the problem statement is given to the right set of people, and then they go and figure it out how to move the needle. So yeah, I think that a nice clean process map view speaks a lot.
I understand that. I want to give you a, again, I'm part of this tribe. I want to give you an inspiration as a possibility. In the city of Los Angeles in the United States is a very famous street called Mulholland Drive. And many people know Mulholland Drive from a variety of different reasons. What people don't realize is what Mulholland Drive is. It was named after the man who figured out how to bring water to Los Angeles. And the only reason Los Angeles is what it is because of Mulholland. And it's a colorful history, but bottom line is they named a major street after the guy who brought water to Los Angeles. And that's how I think of process mining. I want to have a major street named after the person who does great process mining in a company, because that's what drives a company to be successful, is to know what the hell they're doing and what the processes are. So we can all be Mulholland and have a street named after us. It'll be Manjeet Boulevard, and now we have to pick the city that Manjeet Boulevard is going to be in.
I love that, Chris. I think that's a great great way to kind of really bring excitement within your team. It's like, hey, if you want your street to your name, let's bring those.
I'm looking for the city, Manjeet. I got to find a city to name Manjeet Boulevard. I don't know which one it's going to be. All right, we are out of time. Manjeet, thank you very much in behalf of ServiceNow, a fantastic company that provides a great insight in making all of this stuff work. As I said before you came on, and I will say as you're leaving, if anyone doesn't know much about ServiceNow as an overall company, I would encourage you all to dig into it. As a member of the tribe of process improvement people, it's a critical tool you need to understand. I will see everybody at the top of the hour, 10 minutes. Manjeet, thank you very much. We will see you again next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.